Hello, and welcome to Cultivated World, the channel that brings you the good stuff from the world of watches. Today, we have the Rolex Oyster Perpetual 41 with the turquoise dial, which has caused quite the stir recently. With the hype surrounding Patek Philippe and a certain jewelry brand, the turquoise Oyster Perpetual has reached heights that nobody could have ever anticipated. With some prices on the grey market for this Oyster Perpetual advertised at over 10 times the retail price, has the world gone mad? Or is there any way we can justify these lofty asking prices for what is essentially the entry watch from Rolex? The Oyster Perpetual lineup had a complete overhaul in 2020, which transformed the most basic Rolex watch from what some may have described as simply the cheap Rolex, the one you buy if you can't afford any other models, into the fun, cool and hip watch in the range, a luxury fashion watch, if there ever was one. In our review of the 2020 releases, we call the new Oyster Perpetual watches the highlight of the show, but even we were unprepared for what transpired. First off, here's a little background story of how we got here in the first place. One of the world's most coveted watchmakers, Patek Philippe, commenced their relationship with Tiffany the jeweler in 1851, when Tiffany became an authorized dealer for Patek Philippe watches in the United States. At the time, Patek Philippe was relatively unknown in the USA, and this partnership with one of the country's premier jewelers was a step in establishing a reputation. In its quest to become successful in this new market, Patek Philippe took the initiative to have Tiffany co-sign the dials with their logo. They could then leverage the reputation of Tiffany and give further credibility to Patek Philippe in this emerging market, and to ultimately help them sell watches. It's funny to think how things have changed, and it's now considered an honor to have your logo on a Patek Philippe watch. To celebrate the 170th anniversary of the partnership between Patek Philippe and Tiffany, and to give the Nautilus 5711 its swan song, they launched the final edition of the 5711, featuring a Tiffany blue coloured dial and of course the Tiffany cosign. With a limited run of only 170 units worldwide, you thought getting any previous 5711 was difficult. This one, the Tiffany dial, was outrageously difficult to obtain. A true unicorn of a watch. You had to be a Tiffany VIP to even be considered in the first place. The only other way you could have purchased one of these with your name on the warranty card was to bid for the one that was put up for auction with Philippe the auction house. If you don't already know how much this watch sold for, you better sit down before I tell you. Are you ready? This watch sold for a staggering $6.5 million. That's right, 6.5 million big ones, including fees. I know the money went to charity, however, that's a big chunk of change to spend on a steel watch that only has a date complication. That's 120 times the retail price. Now, don't get me wrong, I like the Tiffany Nautilus a lot, and I don't think I'm alone in that. So, if you want a watch with a turquoise dial, and you don't have a budget of $6.5 million, what options do you have? If you want one from a brand with comparable cachet, it has to be the Rolex Oyster Perpetual. There is no other option. The Oyster Perpetual dial is a bit bluer in colour than the Tiffany dial, but the resemblance is discernible, and it's that dial that is the standout feature on this watch. Before the Tiffany Nautilus went to auction, this Oyster Perpetual was already selling for more than double the retail price, but overnight, the price shot up. In response to the huge success the Tiffany dial experienced at auction, a massive amount of attention was brought to the turquoise Oyster Perpetual, and demand became rampant. This price surge of the turquoise model has had an effect on the pricing of the other colours in the Oyster Perpetual range, with them also moving up. The second most popular 41mm model is the one with the green dial, and if you haven't seen our review of this watch, you can click the link in the top right hand corner or check later in the description below. Whether prices stay this high for the turquoise Oyster Perpetual is anyone's guess, but let me ask you this: would you pay more for an Oyster Perpetual on the grey market than something like a Submariner or a GMT Master? Clearly some people are, and are surely basking in the glow of the Tiffany halo. What do you think of the turquoise Oyster Perpetual and the astronomical pricing of this watch? Can these prices even be sustained? Please let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Thank you very much for watching our video on the turquoise Oyster Perpetual, and if you like watches as much as we do and want to see more watch content like this, please like and subscribe, and remember to hit that bell icon.